Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Italy, a place to love YouTube channel. Okay, my friends, so today, as Monday, I'm making a video where I'm reading in Italian language a selected article by me, a selected topic by Italy, a place to love by Antonio. So this is called Read in Italian with Antonio. That's what is called this program that I'm making today. Now, first of all, I want really thank my friend KST Dent for the super thanks donation that he made me on yesterday video. So I really appreciate, and I want to send him back a big thanks for the donation. And then, my friends, if you like my channel and if you like the things that I'm talking about, please put like and subscribe. Okay, so let's enter in today's video in the topic of today. So as you can see, I'm talking about bubbles. So we see here a bottle of champagne, spumante, prosecco. But so let's start reading about prosecco o spumante. Now, let's start. Prosecco o spumante? Qual è la differenza? Da sapere? Okay, let's start. Now, first of all, now many of you are probably familiar with this type of wine, with this sparkling wine, call it Prosecco. Now, during Christmas and the New Year, during the celebration days, this type of drink, I mean, it's open. Bottles, millions of bottles are open all over the world during these days. The Prosecco is getting more and more popular year after year. For example, when I was working in Ireland and I was working in the wine department in the retail shop where I used to work, so during these times, people were buying tons of sparkling wines. Now, when we talk about sparkling wines, we generally talk about champagne, that is from France, or Prosecco, that is Italian. Now, when we talk about Prosecco, in Italy, we also refer to spumante. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with this word, with spumante, but in Italy, all the um, all the sparkling wines, okay, has this generic name of spumante. Prosecco is only one type of spumante. So in Italy, again, all the sparkling wines that we have this name like spumante. Then to be a prosecco, you have to have particular um, you have to have particular things that are related with the prosecco wine. But we're gonna find out anyway. Now while we are reading this article in Italian language, and then I will translate it a bit by bit while I'm reading. Ok, let's start reading. Prosecco o spumante per festeggiare? Now, here it says Prosecco o spumante per festeggiare means to celebrate. Festeggiare is festa. Okay, la festa, it's a celebration. Festeggiare is to celebrate. So, these days are celebrations day, questi sono giorni di festa. Ora, spesso confusi o usati come sinonimi in vista dei brindisi delle feste, vediamo la differenza tra le bollicine italiane. So, they are often confused and used as synonymous. So basically, there is this confusion about spumante or prosecco, and to think that they are exactly the same thing, which while they are not. In vista dei brindisi delle feste, so because now we're getting close to the festive days, ehm, vediamo la differenza tra le bollicine italiane. Let's see the difference between the Italian bubbles. Ok, vediamo is to see, let's see, like to see, vedere, differenza, the difference, bollicine, bubbles. So let's see the difference between the Italian bubbles. All right, so then here we have this picture with the typical bottle of the Prosecco, okay, with this cap that is popping. Um, all right, now here è una delle domande più fatte in rete. Qual è la differenza tra prosecco o spumante? Now, one of the most common questions we might find on the web is what is the difference between prosecco or spumante? Now, which one is domande are like questions, okay? Then the differenza, then prosecco o spumante, between, tra is between, tra, prosecco o spumante. Okay, let me spend 2 words about prosecco, for example. Now, secco in Italia means dry. And dry, generally, when we are talking about a dry wine, we are talking about a not sweet wine. So, prosecco, the translation could be before dry, before it dries. But again, secco means not sweet. Now, chiariamoci le idee e capiamo qual è la differenza tra prosecco e spumante, perché non sono esattamente sinonimi, ma non sono nemmeno mondi così lontani come a volte si pensa. Now, let's clear our mind to understand the difference between prosecco e spumante. Idee is ideas, for example. Let's clear our ideas and capiamo, capire, understand. Let's try to understand qual è, which one, qual è la differenza, which one is the difference between, between prosecco e spumante, perché non sono esattamente sinonimi. They are not exactly the same thing. Sinonimi, synonymous, ma non sono nemmeno mondi così lontani come a volte si pensa. But they are not they are not two different words. For example, world is mondo. They are lontani, far. They are not so far. These two words are not so far as we might think. Now, cos'è il prosecco? Cosa in Italian? Let me spend 2 words about cos'è. What is it? Prosecco. I would translate it with cos'è il prosecco? What is it? Prosecco. Now, cosa is what in Italian. Cosa sono questi? What is this? For example, what? Cosa. Now, dal punto di vista strettamente tecnico, il Prosecco è un vino bianco DOC, denominazione di origine controllata, o DOCG, denominazione di origine controllata e garantita, per quelli di Montello e dei Colli Asolani o il Prosecco di Conegliano Valdobbiadene. Now, here it's important to spend few words. Now, when you buy an Italian wine, generally on the top of the bottle, you may find a little label, and on this label, you may find this denomination called DOC, that in Italy we call it DOC, or you might find DOCG, denominazione di origine controllata e garantita. So it means that DOC, there is a checked origin. Okay, the origin of the grapes have been checked. Or DOCG means that the origins of the grapes have been checked and guaranteed. So, as you can understand, DOCG is a better quality than DOC. But DOC is already good because many wines don't even have this denomination. So it means the grapes can be just generic grapes and can be just a generic red wine, for example. Now, to have this denomination, a wine, for example, has to be from a particular area. For example, for the Prosecco DOC, the grapes have to be Glera grapes. They must, let me say, they must be Glera grapes, but these Glera grapes can be grown anywhere. While, for example, to have a DOCG Prosecco, you are using the Glera grapes, but they're only grown in a selected area. And now, for example, to have a DOCG, here it says that you have that can only be the Montello, Colli Asolani, or Conegliano di Valdobbiadene. Conegliano. Now, you're probably familiar with this word, Valdobbiadene. If you are a Prosecco drinker, for sure you have noticed on the shelf of your retail shop or of your off license that the most expensive prosecco generally you might find or Colli Asolani, but most of the time abroad you find Valdobbiadene. Valdobbiadene is a very small area and where it can only be the Prosecco DOCG Valdobbiadene in this area. So from the Glera grapes, Glera, and then has this name. So basically, if you're gonna find in your shop this word Valdobbiadene, means it's one of the best prosecco you can find. Now, di cosa parliamo quando diciamo spumante? What are we talking about when we are talking about spumante? Now, di cosa? Like, what are we talking about? Parliamo is parlare, to talk. Di cosa parliamo? What are we talking? Quando diciamo spumante? Quando, when. Quando, when. So, quando diciamo when we say spumante, dire in Italian is like to say. So, quando diciamo when we say spumante, diciamo is like we. Now, parliamo di una categoria di vini, quella che all'apertura della bottiglia producono spuma. Okay, when we are talking about spumante, what are we talking about? Now, we are talking about all the wines that when you open the bottle, they give this bubble, there is this explosion, this pop, and with a lot of bubbles popping out from the bottle. Spuma, I would translate like foam, but it's not really foam. The foam of the bubbles, let me say, causata dalla presenza di anidride carbonica prodotta dalla fermentazione e quindi non aggiunta. So these bubbles are caused by the presence of anidride carbonica that is produced by the fermentation, not added CO2, but it's just from the fermentation of the grapes. Lo spumante può essere prodotto con metodo classico, detto anche champenoise. Ok, lo spumante può essere, può essere prodotto, produced, with the classic method, detto anche champenoise. Let me spend a few words about the champenoise. Now, is the champagne method. We know that champagne is similar to Prosecco in these bubbles creation caused by the CO2, but champagne can only be called if it's made in a certain in the Champagne region in France. Whatever is made with the same method but is not from the Champagne region cannot be called champagne. So when we are buying, for example, a bottle of Moët Chandon, for example, or Bollinger or Tattinger or any other type of champagne, is because it's made from the Champagne region. But if we are buying, for example, a bottle of Prosecco, it's similar, it's very similar to the champagne. The only thing is that it's made with another method, okay, even if Prosecco can also be produced with the champagne method. I give you an example. In Italian, we have a brand called Franciacorta. It's a Prosecco made with the champagne method, but because it's not from the Champagne region, we cannot call it champagne. That's it. So the Prosecco generally is not produced with the classic method, with the champenoise, but is produced with another method called Martinotti Charmat. Okay, that makes the price cheaper. That's why, because the fermentation is not have we are not having the fermentation in the bottle like the champagne. Okay, the second fermentation in the bottle, because there are two fermentation, and here the to make it faster, so it gives a faster production. For example, in in a month time with the Martinotti Charmat, we might have already a bottle of Prosecco ready. In commercio si trovano spumanti delle varianti dry, extra dry, brut ed extra brut. Questi termini indicano la dolcezza dello spumante. Now, we can find different type of spumante. We know that is Prosecco. Prosecco is a type of spumante. We understood this, but Prosecco has the denomination, the OC and the OCG can be made only with the Glera grapes and only in a certain area. And so the spumante or Prosecco, I repeat, if DOC or DOCG made with Glera grapes, can be dry, extra dry, brut, and extra brut. What is the meaning of this? Now, generally, when we are talking about a dry wine, it means that it's not sweet at all. Now, if you want a wine that is not sweet at all, you would go, or a sparkling wine, let's talk about the sparkling, you go for extra brut. For example, champagnes and Prosecco DOC and Prosecco DOCG are all brut and extra brut. Then you might find, for example, Prosecco, which are extra dry, means they are a tiny bit more, they are more sweeter than, they are a tiny bit, they are still dry, but less dry than a brut or an extra brut. If you find only dry Prosecco, means is less dry than an extra dry, means is a tiny bit sweeter. And then we still have two category, for example, in Italy, which are frizzante. Frizzante means it's less dry than dry. Okay, you might find just a prosecco with this what that is written on top frizzante means that it's not dry, means that it's a tiny bit sweeter than the dry. Or then you have dolce, spumante dolce. For example, in Italy we have asti spumante, that is a sweet wine, sweet sparkling wine, and is generally a dessert wine. So this is just to understand for you when you're buying that dry. Let me say, the extra brut is the less dry that you might find. Then you might find brut, dry, extra dry, and dry. So dry is sweeter than much more sweeter than extra brut, even if it's not very sweet, but it's still called sweeter because anyway, I've repeated already a few times, but for you to become familiar with this, it's not very, very easy to understand. Ora, now, the difference between Prosecco o spumante. La differenza tra Prosecco o spumante. Lo spumante, trattandosi di una categoria di vini means wines, può essere prodotto in qualsiasi zona e con qualsiasi vitigno. So, as I said before, spumante can be made anywhere and with any type of grapes, any breed of grapes. So it's enough to use the method to make a sparkling wine, and then you're gonna have a sparkling wine, but doesn't have to be necessary a particular grape or a particular area. While, for example, il Prosecco invece, che è una DOC o DOCG, può essere prodotto solo in alcune zone del Veneto e del Friuli Venezia Giulia e dai vitigni Glera. Now, again, to be DOC wine, it must be Glera grapes okay, and can be grown anywhere. It's enough that the Aglera grapes can be produced in Piedmont region, and that can be a DOC Prosecco. Or if we want to have the best quality of Prosecco, we generally go for the OCG, and it can only be produced from the Glera grapes and in some areas of Veneto region and some areas of Friuli, Venezia, Giulia, not anywhere. Also from other type of grapes like Verdiso, Pinot Bianco, Pinot Grigio o Pinot Nero, e solo con metodo Charmat. So it's not used the champenoise or the champagne method. There are some again who are producing with the champagne method, and they're more expensive simply because it takes longer to produce a champagne. Il vino in generale viene prodotto tramite la fermentazione alcolica. The wine generally is produced with alcoholic fermentation. Gli zuccheri, naturalmente presenti nell'uva, si trasformano in alcol e anidride carbonica. The sugars, naturally in the grapes, they transform themselves in alcohol and CO2. That's why they produce these bubbles. Per ottenere uno spumante è necessaria una seconda fermentazione, in modo da catturare l'anidride carbonica all'interno della bottiglia. Now, to produce a spumante, and so also a prosecco, it's important to have a second fermentation, which, if it's made the second fermentation in the bottle, that is a champagne method. While if it's made with the Charmat method, has to be put in particular tanks for a shorter period. Let me read. So, per ottenere uno spumante è necessaria una seconda fermentazione, a second fermentation, in modo da catturare l'anidride carbonica all'interno della bottiglia. So they have to catch the bubbles inside the bottle, creando appunto le bollicine, creating the bubbles. Il metodo Charmat prevede che la seconda fermentazione, the second fermentation, avvenga in vasche d'acciaio inox e non in bottiglia. So, Charmat method is not in the bottle, the second fermentation, but is made in these steel tanks, okay, that makes, anyway, again, in a short time is possible to produce the Prosecco. Il risultato è un vino fresco e aromatico, so the result, it's a fresh wine and aromatic, dai costi di produzione minori e subito pronto da bere. So has lower cost production, and it's kind of shortly ready to be drunk. So you can produce it, as I said already, in a shorter period, like a month and a half, it's already ready to drink. Ok, now let's go. Analogie e curiosità. Similarities, let me say, between Prosecco e spumante. Non c'è differenza tra Prosecco e spumante per quanto riguarda le varietà, influenzate dal livello di zuccheri presenti. So there's no difference between Prosecco and spumante when we are talking about the level of sugars inside the wine. Per entrambi, for both, we talk about dry or brut. Again, brut is more dry, is drier than brut. Sorry, brut is drier than dry, ok? E le varie sfumature intermedie. And anyway, the level of sugars in between, dry, like extra dry, extra brut, and so on. E le varie sfumature intermedie. Sapevate invece che non è detto che il prosecco sia uno spumante? This is important. Did you know that not necessarily prosecco is a spumante? And why prosecco might not be a spumante? Because if a prosecco is not sparkling, ok, that's not a spumante. Alright? So, può essere infatti anche frizzante, una versione con meno bollicine per intenderci. So, when we buy, for example, I saw many bottles, a cheap Prosecco, and you find frizzante, okay, so that is a Prosecco, but it's not sparkling as it is, for example, a Prosecco extra dry, brut, or extra brut. So, or we might find even a Prosecco that is totally still, oppure fermo, detto anche tranquillo. Tranquillo, for example, tranquility, we say calm, ok? Fermo, stable. Quest'ultimo è un bianco perfetto per antipasti o primi leggeri, dal colore giallo paglierino e dal sapore fresco, anche grazie alle note fruttate. So, when we buy, for example, a Prosecco fermo, stable, still, with no bubbles. So this is perfect, for example, as an antipasti, to drink with antipasti, or for main courses that are not very heavy, kind of light main course. So the kind of color is a kind of yellow, quite yellow color, and a fresh flavor, and very fruity thanks to the flavors that is taken by the soil, let me say. Okay, my friends, so we arrive at the end of this video about the differences between spumante and prosecco. I hope you enjoyed this video, and so I'll see you to my next video here on Italy a Place to Love YouTube channel, and I wish you a lovely day, and or even to open few bottles of prosecco. Why not? Okay, my friend, I'll see you to my next video, and enjoy. Have a nice day. Bye.